Hey, everybody, welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs and baseball podcast hosted by two comedians who love the Cubs but live in New York. I'm one of them. My name is Adam Amawala. I'm here with Kevin McCaffrey. Kevin, how you feeling?
I feel I'm okay. I'll keep it to baseball related things, and I'll say baseball wise, it's fine. It is. We're coming off a game one in Denver when the Cubs hung on to a 5-4 win after kind of a weirdo of a game.
Yeah. Yeah, the Pete Crow Armstrong era has begun. I'm going to interrupt the baseball talk right now to do, sometimes we do plugs at the end. I'm going to do a plug up front. This is very important to me.
Yes.
We're recording this on Tuesday, September 12th, but on Tuesday, September 19th, I am going to be headlining Zany's Old Town for one night only. It's 8 o'clock. Now, I realize that if you're listening to this, to listen to a podcast like Away Games, you have to be enough of a Cubs fan that you probably don't want to miss any Cubs game. So I do recognize that doing a show on the same as the Cubs play in Chicago is inherently not ideal. However, if you're willing to miss one game, I'm going to be at the Cubs game on Wednesday with our friend Ken Schultz. You can come hang out with me. We can all talk shit about Jeff Garland together, whatever you want to do. I am here for it. But if you are in the Chicagoland area and you are willing to miss just one Cubs game to come see me do comedy, I would very much appreciate it. You can get tickets at the Zany's website, or we'll post a link to it. But there it is. There's my plug.
That's a good plug, and honestly, people should do it. I mean, there's so many baseball games. I know they all matter, but you got a phone. You can, when Adam's not on, I'll tell you, you can go to the bathroom for 40 minutes. Who gives a shit? Like,
but you can watch the first half of the game. The show's at 8. Game starts at 6:40. Come on.
Yeah, and it's so rare when the Cubs come to our town, we see them. It's so rare. If you do listen to this, it's so rare for us to come to your town. So, Adam, September 19th, Zany's, it's easy. It'll be fun. Go do it. Please, highly recommended. We will call you up to the podcast, and like PCA has been called up to the Cubs. And PCA, I mean, I guess that's the newest exciting thing is Cubs top prospect, Pete Crow Armstrong, who you probably, if you're listening to this, you probably know a decent amount about him already. He came over in the Javi Baez trade, and since then he has been everything you could hope for and more in the minors. We knew this was an extremely fast guy. He steals bases. He plays center field, 80 grade center fielder defensively. I think I forget if it was Pipeline or Baseball America, but one of those, they came out with the rankings of players with the best tools in the minors, and they ranked Pete Crow Armstrong as the best defensive player at any position in the minors. Yeah. So that's the kind of guy we're getting in center field here. Yeah. And he's even added a little power. He had 20 homers so far this year.
He is so good defensively that I'm afraid he's going to hurt himself. Like, he's going to make some crazy, like when Hayward made that unbelievable play in San Francisco and like smacked his head against the wall or whatever that was. Like, Pete Crow Armstrong, he will get to balls or make a play close that he has no business even being within 30 feet of.
Yeah, and he does play, it seems physically reckless, which is fun to watch. You just hope he stays healthy. I will make a cross art form comparison that this may mean nothing to you, but I know it'll mean something to a couple of our listeners, the Wrigleyville Nation guys. He plays like Darby Allin wrestles, AEW wrestler Darby Allin, who is very fun to watch, but I think is just like, if you were putting money on who's going to die soon because of this, it's like that. But it is, Pete Crow Armstrong is extremely fun to watch. His name goes all the way around his jersey. It is a full rainbow going down to the bottom of the rib cage on either side. His mom is an actress who was in the big league, played the mom in that movie. So it's crazy. And he's also from the Harvard Westlake, just absolute pipeline of players that came out of that magical, fancy Southern California high school.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, he's giving Encarnacion-Strand a real run for his money in terms of most ridiculous looking names on the back of a jersey.
Just absolute Scrabble winners going on here.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess let's backtrack a little bit before we get to PCA. We're recording this after the first game in Colorado, which followed kind of an odd homestand, I guess would be the best way to say it. The Cubs swept the Giants, which obviously was great. The Giants are one of the, I guess, 4 teams that are still kind of behind the Cubs in the wild card. Cubs swept them and looked very good doing
Hmm.
it. And then they started off a 4 game set against the Diamondbacks, losing the first three, the middle two in pretty frustrating fashion. Um, and then salvaging the last one, which honestly was a huge game. Like if you lose that fourth game to the Diamondbacks, you've just let them gain 4 games on you rather than gaining 2 games, which is what they ultimately did. Um, so yeah, it's the Cubs. The really troubling thing was that the Cubs' offense seemed to disappear during that stretch. Now, some
Very
of it
much
was
so.
going up against good pitching. Zach Gallen is a tremendous pitcher. I guess he threw the complete game, right? Did
He
anyone?
did.
I think he did. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you're just going to get got by
Hmm.
pitchers like that. That'll happen. It's sort of the games surrounding that were the real
Right.
trouble, where it felt like, oh, this is sort of what we thought the Cubs offense would look like coming into the
Hmm.
year, when you don't have, a surprising and resurgent MVP candidate bat in there. When you don't, when
Right.
other guys like, Mike Tauchman has cooled off a lot since the summer.
Hmm.
Jamer Candelario hurt himself a little bit, but also had cooled off very hard. And it just like, man, Nico's bat has picked up in recent weeks a little bit, which has been great, but it just, it got to the point where just you see how shallow this lineup can be, where you have a couple
Hmm.
guys at the top and then it falls off.
Yeah, and when a couple of the guys that you expect to rely on are not trending well, like Swanson before a couple days ago, Jamer Candelario had really been struggling.
Mhm.
Now he's on the well, is he on the IL or is he just like did they officially IL him or no?
I don't know that I've seen him officially be IL'd. I'll do a
Yeah.
quick, I'll scan quickly and see what I can see, but yeah.
But the point being, like Candelario was really, really hot, about as hot as a person can be after the Cubs traded for him, and since then has been pretty pedestrian. I think his
Hmm.
his defense has been pretty solid, but if you were to look at his numbers, I would say in the past whatever it is 2-3 weeks, they've not been great. He's had his moments. He hit the big home run in
Hmm.
Cincinnati in that 0-0 Assad game that the Cubs unfortunately ultimately blew. But yeah, I think it's just it's tough when you're wasting more brilliance from Justin Steele and unexpected brilliance from Jamison Tyone, who like, we've not seen much of that. Like when
Yeah.
when Tyone goes out and gives you 6 or 7 innings of zero or 1 run ball, and you can't win that game, it feels like what game can you win?
Yeah, and him coming through, pitching so well. Obviously, Assad has continued to pitch really well too. And part of what was so frustrating about that Arizona series is the pitchers were really doing it for the most part.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, it was several 1 and 2 run starts that this lineup was giving you. And we talked about the calling up of PCA being the exciting thing this week. Canario went back down after. So glad we called him up for that one at bat he took
You almost
against.
got Moonlight Grabbed.
Yeah, he almost did. So they sent Canario back down, but Jordan Wicks is now approaching. The last exciting prospect that was called up. Jordan Wicks is now approaching. I guess he's in the playoff rotation. I mean, I don't know. If he's not, I don't know why he wouldn't be at this point, unless it's just that Taillon, as a veteran, gets in ahead of him in that third
He's
spot.
given up 4 runs total in 4 starts, and one
Yeah,
of those was in Colorado. And yes, the Rockies are trash, but it was
yeah.
in Colorado.
Exactly. So he's been tremendous, and I think in the last 2 starts he's only struck out 3 hitters total. So
Mhm.
he's not really missing bats in a way that makes you feel comfortable about it being sustainable. But you don't have to be sustainable at 1 run per game going for. I mean, like you just
No.
that's not what we're asking for. Even though that is what Jordan Wicks has given you. It's being solid every single game out there, and he just has the feeling of a guy who's not really prone to a blow up.
Mhm.
Like I mean, the command seems pretty good, and he doesn't seem to like lose composure in a way that we've seen, like maybe a Wisniewski lose
Mhm.
composure in similar situations. So it is, yeah. I mean, I think at this point it's Steele, Hendricks, and then probably, well, I guess Assad has pitched well enough for
Well,
long.
it could also be like obviously, presumably in a 3 game series, which the Cubs, if they make the playoffs, will for sure be in. If
Yeah,
you get to that third game, it's probably already kind of all hands on deck anyway.
that's
So
true.
I would think it'll be some combination of I don't know who would start the game, but I think Wicks and Assad would certainly be very much in play for those games, assuming they haven't worked yet in the series.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, you look at that, and you can sort of take those five starters and figure out three pretty strong approaches in those games,
Yeah.
just among those starters, right? And then also, there's news that Marcus Stroman is aiming for a comeback as a reliever this season. Like,
Hmm.
apparently, we've seen reports. I don't think it's been confirmed by like by the beat writer guys,
Right.
but I think it was Michael Bowling, I want to say, said September 15th he heard as a
That's
return.
Friday.
Yeah, exactly. It's weirdly quick, but I guess thinking about it as sort of I don't know if you're going with Stroman as an opener situation or just have him a scheduled day where you're going to come in and piggyback and try to go 2 innings or something like that.
I
But yeah,
mean, as a closer, I feel like he's got like Joe Borowski level velocity, so it
yeah,
could
you can.
work.
Oh, yeah, bring, and I mean, he definitely has closer swag for sure. So
Sure.
he could do that.
Well, but the real story here is that Adbert Alzolay, who has, I don't even know if it's fair to say that he's like struggled recently, but he hasn't been as perfect as he had
Sure,
been. Is now on the IL with I guess it's a forearm strain, right forearm discomfort, which is
I
like,
hate. Yeah,
yeah, that is. I mean, I think it speaks to the amount that the Cubs have had to use him, and probably just the fatigue that's on that arm at this point. So on the same day that the Cubs called up Peter Armstrong and were able to activate Michael Fulmer, you've got Adbert Alzolay, who's been, maybe it's overstating it to say one of the better closers in baseball, but numbers
I don't
wise, in
think
terms of
so.
like saves converted and ERA, I think he's probably up there. So obviously a huge blow coming down the stretch here, especially because three of the past four Cubs games have been one-run games. So if the Cubs continue playing close games, which I think they probably will, it would be fantastic to have at least one or two laughers in there somewhere in the Cubs'
Yeah,
favor. Hopefully in Colorado these next couple games. But as we saw last night, going back to that game, I was watching it live as I was simultaneously watching a very interesting Jets game. But
yes,
um, I have to think that Michael Fulmer was in the game because no one else was really available. I mean, Quas had already come in,
yep.
and Ross arguably was, I would say, stubborn, leaving him in the game. And then you get some work out of Smiley, who did a great job, but
Hmm.
it seemed like Merriweather must have been down because otherwise I would think he would be the go-to.
He closed the
Um,
previous game, right? Yeah.
yeah, and then Leiter was warming, but I think maybe Ross didn't want to use him. I'm thrilled that Fulmer got the job done, but when he
Yeah.
came in and couldn't throw a strike, I was ready to flip a table. I don't understand how you put somebody in that spot after not pitching in a big league game in 3 weeks.
Straight coming off the IL, and he got it done. He did only throw like 3 or 4 actual strikes.
Right.
The Rockies were really waving at some stuff way out of the zone. And I mean, Fulmer has an extremely good slider, and that is a repeatable skill. That is to get people
Right.
chasing stuff. But they weren't chasing. If they didn't swing, you wouldn't even call some of those competitive pitches. They were deeply out of the strike zone that these guys were waving at.
Yeah, and it seemed like he had no control over his fastball, so I would think as a Rockies hitter, you have to know the slider's coming.
Right. So it was an uncomfortable save. He did get it done, and I think, I mean, besides, we knew Leiter was warming, and then Luke Little was there in the pen, who looked great when we saw him come in, the big 6'8" lefty, who throws really hard and also has a tremendous slider. But yeah, I mean, I think the hoping for a game where you can just not use your highest leverage guys
Yeah.
is something you would really want to see today or tomorrow in Colorado. Before I go to Colorado this weekend, if we have any
Oh,
listeners there, I'm going to be in Boulder on September 14th doing a show, and then in Denver on the 15th and the 16th. Follow me at Kevin McCaff on Instagram, and you
is
can.
this your Denver Comedy Lounge weekend?
Denver Comedy Lounge Friday, Saturday, and
Hell yeah.
yeah, and then Boulder shows on Thursday and Sunday. So bouncing around in the Denver area.
That's great. If only you could have flown out tomorrow morning or something,
I know.
gotten the day game in.
I looked into it. But yeah, just not quite going to work out this time. But hopefully they can, yeah. If you can really beat up on a dog shit team, the
Yes.
Rockies, on one of these games and get some guys some rest, that would be helpful, short term, long term, all that. Especially as we wait for hopefully good news about Alzolay. And if for when we talk about how nervous we are when we hear forearm tightness, that is because that is usually what you hear. It doesn't always precede Tommy John, but when there are Tommy Johns, that is the thing you hear that precedes it.
Yeah.
So that is the worry, and that is why, I mean, on this podcast, I was saying a month and a half ago how nervous I was when the Alzolay would be used on. I think it was used on like a back-to-back day when there was a 4-run save and stuff, and knowing he's a guy who has struggled with injury and is so far above his career high in appearances. I've been nervous about him for a while, so hopefully this is just a reset and he's back. But yeah,
it is, and it would really, really suck because the guy's dealt with so many injuries, and it seems like he's finally settled into a role that he can like really pour all of his energy into.
Yeah.
And it did feel sustainable, but there was always that thing in the back of your mind that was like, well, he's had issues before, and now that we're asking this of him, like, is he going to be able to get it done? But at a certain point, it's like, ooh, nice motorcycles.
Yeah. Yeah. Loud outside.
Kevin is on a motorcycle right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm raging. I'm in full midlife crisis.
You kind of don't know who to go to at this point, because if you look at the game on Saturday, which I think was the game that Steele started and pitched really well, Cubs have a chance to walk it off. They aren't able to do that. I think Tauchman was up and couldn't get it done. And then Palencia is the first guy out of the pen in extra innings, and he's not throwing strikes. And even ends up giving up the go-ahead run on a wild pitch with it's not like it's satisfying to see somebody get knocked around or give up home runs, but there is something so incredibly frustrating about somebody in a late inning situation just not being able to throw strikes. I just don't know who's in the circle of trust anymore.
Yeah, and that's just, this is a natural problem with a bullpen, and also probably specifically when your bullpen is not where you allot most of your resources, which I understand. I don't disagree with that philosophically, but it's just, especially at this point in the year, it's just gonna get weird. It's gonna get stretched, and which is again part of why I didn't understand the DFAing of Shane Green so quickly, who had looked good and who has been through this before. And I actually don't know if Shane Green was DFA'd and then made it back to Iowa, or if he is out of the organization now. But it's just a problem that most teams have at this point, I think, in the year, where you're just grabbing for innings at the end of these games, especially at the at the end of these games when they matter, and especially when there's so many teams in the race with all these playoff spots. Just everyone's pushing everybody, which is good for like a playoff race in a general entertainment way. But you look at how the teams surrounding the Cubs have played in the last few weeks, and nobody's really losing a ton. Everybody is hanging in there in this wild card race. As we talk to you right now, as we record this on Tuesday, the Cubs have the second wild card position. They are a game and a half behind Philadelphia. Arizona's in third. Then you got Miami, San Francisco, Cincinnati following right behind that. Those are really the only teams that matter. But San Francisco's 4-6 over the last 10, and that's thanks to the Cubs that they're losing. But everyone else is 500 or better over that stretch. So everyone's just like holding pace, and there's no real, no real breathing room, no real chance to get space on anybody here.
Yeah, and the Brewers, it's like every time the Cubs get right within striking distance, they widen the gap again. So the Cubs had, I want to say, going into the Thursday night game against Arizona, were they only like a game and a half?
It was game and a half. Yeah, they got it down to a game and a half, and
right. Had they won that game, they'd be within a game, and then the Brewers come in. Frankly, the Cubs are lucky that the Yankees even won that one game on Sunday, because they didn't get a hit until the 11th inning. I think
it was so funny.
Did you see that catch in right field?
I did not, I don't think.
Oh my God. Frelick on the Brewers made one of the best catches you will ever see to preserve a no-hitter through 10 innings, but also save the game, because the Yankees would have walked it off. And he went slamming into, I forget who the Brewers center fielder was. I didn't recognize the guy, but like it could have been a very serious collision, but like ridiculously good play.
Frelick's really good, and I think he's a rookie. So he's going to be around a while, frustratingly. But that is, man, what a couple of days in in Wisconsin, I guess. Obviously, they got their happy Green Bay just kicked the shit out of the Bears this Sunday. That was a bummer to see. But oh man, was that a fun loss to watch the Brewers take? If you don't know, as Adam alluded to, they threw a no-hitter through 10 innings and lost the game. That rules. That was just
Yeah.
great to see. And thanks to the Yankees for having the like maybe one nice moment of the
Yeah.
of
And
their
not only that, but the Brewers, like, I think it was, they scored one in the 11th, then the Yankees scored one. Then the Brewers scored two in the 12th, the Yankees scored two to tie it. And then finally in the 13th, I think the Yankees got one run. So from the other perspective, as a Brewers fan, that must have been a fairly excruciating loss. But you know what? That's okay.
That was okay. Yeah, and just talking about the Yankees reminds me of a Cub relevant story from the week. I met Anthony Rizzo, and I haven't even
Oh my God.
haven't even
Yeah.
talked to you about that.
How did that come to be?
That came to be because I was in Manhattan getting a small surgery, just a little skin thing, and I was at the doctor's office, and my friend Ben Kleinman, who's a big Yankee fan, he has Yankee season tickets. I'll go with him sometimes. He had like seen this pop up on some social media thing, and he was like, "Hey, I don't know if you can get there, but Anthony Rizzo's at the flagship store right now," and I was like 10 blocks away. Post tiny surgery, and so I ran over there to see. I was like, all right, I don't know if I'll be able to make it because he was there for like a half hour, but I was like, all right, I mean, I'm close enough. I'm in Manhattan, weirdly enough. So I went over, and yeah, it was at the MLB flagship store, and you had to like buy a thing to get in line to, and I was like, this feels corny, whatever.
Just
but
buy anything?
yeah. So they said it was $100 minimum to like get this photo, and I was like, "Fuck that!" I just bought one thing, and they give you a wristband, and went in, and it was like super fast. You know, you just go in, shake the hand. I was like, "Hey, man, you know."
I have the same name as your dog. Nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I told him to give Kevin my best, and
Did you actually?
I did. Yes, I said, I'm a big Cubs fan. Thanks for everything. Hope you're feeling better, soon, and certainly by next year. And give Kevin my best, and that was it. And I absolutely should have hollered at you. I apologize for not.
That's okay.
I didn't even know if I was going to make it in time, or what the deal was. But yes, that is how it came to be.
Did he say anything, or was it just like a, hey, nice to meet you?
Yeah, he was like, yeah, I mean, very, very quick and small talky stuff, but just like, hey,
Yeah.
thanks. Oh yeah, totally. I think he said, yeah, feeling a little better every day. And yeah, and that was, and then I dropped our friend Joe Kilgallen's name too. I said, I'm a comic, and I know Joe Kilgallen and Chris DiStefano, because I know those are two guys who have hung out with Rizzo, and he was like, oh yeah, tell him I say hi. So that was it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. He actually, I thought he would be taller. Not that you're not. I mean, what are you, 6'1"?
I'm saying, like, it's above, it's 6'1.5". I can
Yeah.
round up to 6'2". I think when I was younger, it was a flat 6'2", but yeah. But
In my mind, he was like a larger, because he, how tall is he listed at? Like 6'4"?
I think he's
6'3"?
listed 6'3" or 6'4". Yeah, I've seen it listed both ways, but yeah, I will say he's a broad fucker. This guy is like, he is just like, it just looks like on a video game you created someone with like a different build,
Yeah.
he's physically large. He's about an inch taller than me probably, but he's a big dude. Yeah.
Was it just a photo situation, or could you get something signed if you wanted to?
It didn't I thought it was going to be a sign situation. I had but it seemed they really moved you through quickly, and I was like, I don't really see anyone signing stuff, so I just got the picture and
Did you
bounced.
buy a Cubs related thing for him to
I did.
get signed?
Yes, yeah. I just bought a little shirt with a bear on it, but alas, maybe next time. But it's nice to like, because also I'm 41 years old. It's like, should you, is it goofy? And it's like, it's not goofy. It's fun to say hi and thanks to anyone, I think, in a situation like that, and to get just to have the picture, is a fun thing.
1,000%.
Yeah.
But this is a good transition. Speaking of cute little Cubby bears,
Yes.
you may have seen it on our Twitter, but we're doing a fun little giveaway. The folks from Official League who are a hat company, reached out to us, and they want to help us give away a really cool hat. Now, I assume it can be this Cubs hat if you want it to be, but if you're a fan of a different baseball team, that works too. But they're releasing a series of baseball inspired corduroy hats designed by NBA Paint. Are you familiar with NBA Paint? Because I am, and it's pretty great.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the hat right now, and it is it's very fun. It's cool, and it's different from the kinds of hats you normally see.
For sure, yeah. If you're not familiar with NBA Paint, it's this Twitter account where this guy guy or gal, I think no one actually knows who NBA Paint is, but they'll post like a very sped up video of them recreating a logo for a team in Microsoft Paint. So it's like very, very old school looking and silly. But in any case, if you just go to our Twitter at Away Games Pod, all you have to do is follow us, which you probably already do, and Official League, and then just retweet the post, and you'll be entered to win a free hat. And they'll select that on Friday. So if you want a free hat, nothing else required of you other than a little follow and a retweet.
Yes, go to Away Games Pod and check that out and get that hat. It looks sick.
Indeed. So as we look forward here, we've got two more against the Rockies. Today the matchup is Javier Assad versus Flexen. Hopefully you won't be flexing on us. And then we got Taillon versus Blach.
Yes.
I mean, first we had Fott, then we had Blach.
Yeah,
oh,
really.
Actually, they go back to back. We face Fott again the next game. There you go.
That's wonderful. They're really the people who write the scripts for the Major League Baseball season are running out of ideas by the end of this thing.
But we got Assad and Taillon today, tomorrow. Again, like I guess theoretically you win one of those two games, you're happy to take 2 out of 3 in Colorado, where it's never an easy place to play. But give me a sweep. Just a sweep would be really nice because you're heading into finally an off day after I think it's a stretch of 14 games in 13 days dating back to the pre-Labor Day doubleheader against the Reds. But finally an off day on Thursday, then 3 at the Diamondbacks. It'll be very fun to see Pete Crow Armstrong in the outfield, both in Colorado and in Arizona if he gets out there a bit. And then following that, you got 3 at Pittsburgh. As I mentioned, I will be at the Wednesday game, which right now is lining up to be Jameson Taillon versus Keller. Not a great matchup.
It's it's with the team he came up playing with. He was drafted by the Pirates, so I think he's going to feel cozy on that mound, and he's going to pitch well.
I hope so. But it's interesting. I was talking to my Mets buddy Adam. The Mets are going to have a quite a significant bearing on the Cubs at the end of the year. I don't know if you've seen the Mets schedule, because why would you have? Yeah. But the Mets remaining schedule is 3 games against Arizona, 3 against Cincinnati, 3 against Miami, 4 against Philadelphia, 3 against Miami, 3 against Philadelphia. So they're exclusively playing wild card teams now. I don't often say this, but go Mets.
Yeah, that's a good second. If you got the MLB.TV package outside of the New York area, that might be a decent secondary team to be checking in on, I guess.
But anything else that jumped out at you over the past, I don't know, few days or something to look forward to as we approach? I mean, we're this is it here. This is it. There's probably 2 more episodes of this that will drop before the regular season ends. At the moment, according to ESPN, 87.4% chance of the Cubs making the playoffs. We are fully in the territory of, if they don't, it will feel like a collapse.
It's a meltdown, at least a minor meltdown at this point. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they will, because I do think so. The team
make the playoffs, to be clear, not collapse.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Yes, no, I do, because I don't think this team. Last week, the offense was so bad for that short stretch against Arizona, but the pitching stayed really good. And I think the way this team is built, I don't, feel like it's a tremendous World Series threat, but I do think it is prone to not melt down, which is an insane thing for a Cubs fan to say at this point in the season. I understand. I have lived 41 years. I've seen so many of them, obviously. But I just feel like the way, even the ceiling may not be the highest, but I feel like the floor, and I hate talking about floors, but it's high enough that they've put themselves in this position that I do feel optimistic charging to the finish here and just holding on to where they are. So, no, I see David Ross is now doing an impression of himself, saying, "The guys who got us here, we're gonna stick with it. We might find a start, but we're gonna stick with the guys who got us here," which is actually not how you best manage a team. It just isn't, and I'm not a David Ross hater as a manager, but I am hoping this manifests itself. We've loved Mike Tauchman this whole year. He's gone real cold. I think we just have to see. This isn't a Canario situation where it's, I don't know, maybe he'll run into a couple and get hot, put him in a corner or DH. This is a situation, especially as you pointed out, Colorado, Arizona, putting an 80 grade defender in center and shifting Bellinger over to first. I just think that's winning baseball right now.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking for over the next week is to see PCA get a few starts. And if he doesn't, I'll be frustrated. So that's what I'm looking for.
I think that's totally fair. I mean, if there is something to give David Ross credit for, I guess it's actually switching up the lineup finally, which we saw on Sunday, and the Cubs ended up winning that game. So the other thing that's really big here is that when the Cubs lost that third straight game against the Diamondbacks, that was the first time they had lost 3 straight games since the first 3 days of July.
Yeah.
So we're talking over 2 months since they had lost 3 in a row, and I think that's really the sign of a good team, is not letting it get away from you. Because obviously earlier on we saw some really rough stretches from this team, but that's impressive to be able to keep a losing streak at 2 and win that third game the vast majority of the time. Or come off of a loss and win the next game like that. I think that says something about a team.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's what makes me feel pretty solid going into these last few weeks. So guys, here's the important things. Go to Adam Mamawalla's show on September 19th in Chicago at Zany's. Please do. Please say hi. This is, be one of the good comedy fans out there, or podcast fans, because so frequently, as Adam can tell you, you post all the dates you're going places, and I'll post dates like I'm in LA and Denver and Seattle, and then people will be like, "Oh, why aren't you in Houston?" And then you go to Houston, and then that person doesn't go. Don't be that. Be the person that goes when the person comes. So Adam at Zany's, September 19th. That's important. Follow us at Away Games Pod. You'll see the tweet right there. Retweet it. Win a great hat. Do that, and watch these fun, weird games we got in Colorado this week. And that's all I have to say about any of that.
Yeah, and similarly, if you happen to be a Cubs fan who's in the Colorado area, go see Kevin this coming weekend.
Yeah.
But that is it for us. We will talk to you next week. Probably I'll be recording from Chicago when we record that.
Oh, nice.
But we'll talk to you then. Go Cubbies.